Hello everyone, my name is Ali Muhammad Botu, a cybersecurity analyst. In today's class, we are going to discuss about SQL injection. What is an SQL injection? And we are going to focus on a particular topic which called blind SQL injection. So, students, you can bear with me. And now we are going to present a slide to discuss about the SQL injection for the first time, then before we go to the practical aspect of it. And now the first thing we are going to look is the slide. So blind SQL injection. So what does blind SQL injection mean? And what is SQL injection itself? Because SQL injection is the first thing we need to discuss. So blind, when you can see here we have blind SQL injection. When we go to the next, we see SQL injection is considered a high risk vulnerability due to the fact that leads to full compromise of the remote system. Because with SQL injection, you can do many things to vulnerability. Most of our website nowadays, when you go, there are vulnerabilities. The more you secure your website, the more the advance of SQL injection is going on, and which you think that this cannot be, is not attackable, cannot be exploited, which can be exploited. There are so many ways in order to exploit into the website. And this is why the almost all web application penetration testing and or engagement, the application are always checked for the SQL injection. And that extension, how is it happening? And that extension is there is particular language which is called SQL, and that is for database. And all what you are doing, you are going to try and exploit into what? Into the database of a particular website. So, and a general simple definition of when an application is vulnerable to SQL injection is when the application allows you to interact with the database and to execute queries of the database, then it is vulnerable to SQL injection attack. So, and there are many vulnerable applications, right? So, and that you can try in order to learn about SQL injection exploitation. But in this article, that is our article we are discussing now, we will focus on the what? On DAM vulnerability world application, DVM. So all our testing, we are going to do it in what? The application called DVM, on how to exploit using SQL injection, and how you can extract the information from the database by using SQL injection. Of course, the methodology can be used and for any real life scenarios in web application penetration test. And in order to exploit SQL injection vulnerability, we need to figure what are we going to figure. We want to figure out how the query is built in order to what? In order to inject our parameters in the situation that the query will remain true. Yeah, and for the example in DVWA, we are going to discuss in just some minutes. We can see a text field where it asks for the user ID, where for you to put your ID in order to log in order to extract something for authentication purpose. So if we enter number one and we click on submit button, you will notice that it will return what? It will return the first name of the surname of the user. Or it's going to give you what? It's going to give you something like that this user is exist. So let's go talk about the most important thing what we are going to discuss about it. The purpose of this video is to tell you what is SQL injection, blind SQL injection. So, and blind SQL injection here is this lab shows step by step. Last, I'm going to show you that. So, how to identify and exploit a blind injection on damn vulnerable web application DVWA to retrieve sensitive information from the what? From the backend database during the lab. The security level of DVWA is set to high, actually. And we have to start it firstly, as my instructor told me that doing this video, I have to start from the medium, that is the low level, up to the high level. And then that vulnerability is a PHP MySQL web application. This is what you have to know. It is a PHP with an MySQL web application. And you PHP already know this is a server-side back-end website development. And MySQL is a database that they communicating. The server-side communicating with the database. An application that is intentionally vulnerable. And its main goals are to be an aid for the security professional to test gold skill and tools to the legal environment and help web developers turn the process of securing web development and teaching the student to learn web application security in a classroom. So, and we are SQL, why are SQL injection important? SQL injection vulnerability are one of the most severe weaknesses found in the world. SQL injection attack are unfortunately very common, and this is due to two factors: the significant prevalence of SQL injection vulnerable and the attractive of the target, and typically contain all the interesting critical data for your application. So what you will learn. So now let's talk about what you are going to learn in this particular lesson and the difference between the error-based and blind SQL injection vulnerability, how to identify blind SQL injection vulnerabilities, how to exploit a blind SQL vulnerability using SQL to retrieve information to the backend database. So now I think we are going for what? We are going to for practical aspect. We are going to open our DVWA in order to practicalize, to see how it works, how to exploit, how is that in reality. So, hello guys, I hope you are with me. So let's go and see. So this is DVWA, that is Damp Web Application. So in that we see something, the information in home, that is a general introduction and so many things. So first thing we're gonna look is the SQL injection itself, to start with the low level, and that when we give only one example, then we directly go to the blind SQL injection and explain. So let's click on SQL injection. So now we have clicked on SQL injection, and it is processing. We are going to see the particular field. This called vulnerability SQL injection. We have user ID. So here we are going to put one. We already know that the authentication will be true for one, because one is what? It is in the database. So when we click OK, submit. When we submit the button, now we can see one first name admin, surname admin. So we have one ID. That means this ID is authenticated. There is an admin which is has an ID that is called I1. So then let's see the differences between the blind SQL injection and the normal SQL injection. And this the differences between these is that the SQL injections shows only the error message. When you type a command that is invalid, it tells you there is an error. But what the difference between it, The SQL injection will not give you. It is based on true or false. It will not give you that there is what? There is an error. It will not going to show you everything, right? So let's see how it is. Let's put something like this and put like this, everything. Then we can see the differences. So now you have an error in the SQL syntax. Now it clearly, right? It clearly shows us what our website is vulnerable. It can be exploited, right? So how can we do that? Say, okay, since it is that, let's click on back. Let's go back and say, right, now we can exploit into this SQL injection. So let's say, okay, let's put this. And when you put this only and press submit, only this one will what? Will show clearly that your website is vulnerable. Because when you put this is going to what? Stop the SQL command. I have to open uh, my IDE, development environment, so that for me to write something for you to see how this works, right? So I hope you can see my screen. Here we can say select. This select is an option for what? For selecting of data. To select a data from a database, that is select. So we can select all. This time is all from what? From users, where ID is equals to 1. You closed. What does this query mean? That means select from a user. What is user? User is a table, right? From user where ID is equals to 1. So this, mostly the user, the number one is used to be admin in most of the websites. So what is the difference between this one and the other one? So the differences here is that when you say select ID, where it's going to select all the columns of that particular distance. So what of if you come and do something like this and say, okay, you put this. So that means it's going to, all your information is going to be on this. So where ID is equals to what? It's going to ask whether it is true or false. So it's going to, when you put like this, it's going to stop everything here. From the sign to the downward is going to what? Is going to be null by putting hash. Or you can put this, right? So it's going to, so when you do like this, oh, then you're going to say, oh, what? Oh, 1 is equals to 1. Then you put your hash. Then when we try this, we see that the ID 111, we say name Bob, and this, it gives the whole information. What? It gives the whole information of the database. So that means you exploit into this database. But when you put a random text just like this, it's going to tell you what. So now you see it's not responding because it doesn't accept the information, the data we started. But when the time we put this, then it gives what all the information in what, in the database, the admin, the all from 1. And this is not only the one you can able to see. 1 is equals to 1. Oh, you accept all 1, any what, any database must accept. Even you yourself, you can accept 1 is equals to 1. You give the argument to the database, to the script, that if 1 is equals to 1 and 1 is always is equals to 1. So let's say 2 is equals to 2. Oh, let's jump into 6 is equals to 6. 6, we all know the 6 is equals to 6. That's how it is. Now 6 is equals to 6. Then we put our hash. This is equal to 6, not 3. Then say okay, submit. So now we can see it's explored everything from database. And not only this one, we can say like this. 1 and 1 is equals to what? Is equals to 1. And we put our hash. Then okay, let's submit. So it's okay. This database has an error. Okay, let's go back and say okay. Let's put this. State database is vulnerable. Okay, let's click on this. You can see yeah, it's also vulnerable. So then yeah. So now this is it for this one. The one we say okay, or 1 is equals to hash. We see that it is vulnerable. So now let's go directly to what? To the blind SQL injection, because it is our focus today. So now let's click on blind SQL injection. So blind SQL injection, the trick is that let's put this and say okay. You see there is no any error. It tells us what? It gives you an option that the user ID is missing from the database. There is no any error, right? Because we have exception, right? If there is this else, that is the condition. If user ID is not accepted, right? It is not authenticated. The user is not known. That means we already know that what the meaning of authentication, that is to identify someone's identity, right? So now this identity is not identified in a database, so tell you okay, this is missing. So let's put 1 and say okay, submit. Now the user exists. So this one is that exception true or false, as we discussed. That is the difference between that one. That for what the SQL injection is used to, what is used to show the error directly. But this one, there is no error. It gives you, it takes the responsibility of everything and tell you the right exception. So then how can we deal with this one? This one is not that it's not vulnerable. It is vulnerable, right? So how can we tell exploit into this? Okay, right? We have no problem. It's the same thing. We put that 1 is equals to 1. You see the ID is missing. Okay. So now user ID is exists, right? So user ID is exists. Let's go and look at something at the top. 1, we have D1. So now from when you go to the URL now on top, you can see something that happened. 1, from here you are going to change, you can change different types of ID. Now we are on ID 1. Okay, what of ID 2? Let me say, okay, let's put 2 here. ID, that is D, is what? Is going to show you, tells you what? The ID of the second, or any ID you wanted to access, you want to exploit. So click on OK. You now user ID exists. So when I change only this one, I say okay, 5, then click ID is not exist. So I can say okay, 4 here, then also 4 here. You click and enter, then you say data exists. So there we have so many ways. We have so many ways in order to talk about to exploit into database, not only what is called blind SQL. There are many types of SQL injection. There is more higher, there is low, there is medium, and there is high level. So I think in the lesson is going to stop for today at this point. When we come to the next time, then we are going to discuss about it more. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening. I am Aliyo Muhammad Buto. Enjoy your day.